In this tutorial I'm going to discuss how to build a frame. We'll begin with the default load-in long wheelbase HPV project. To reiterate, the project file contains a file to describe the rider, a file to describe the shell, and a file to describe the frame, and we're going to work on the frame. So the first thing I'm going to do is go over to the frame, and I'm going to reset the frame that deleted everything. I'm going to drop a crank on here and export that and go back over to the shell just to show you that our crank has moved. A little bit too far away from our rider, but not to worry. I'm going to go back to the frame designer and I'm going to delete that crank, and I'm going to start from beginning to build a tadpole. First thing I need to do is I need to drop some wheels on here, and up here is the widgets. These are the things we'll select and drop around on the screen. There's a wheel, seat, a different kind of seat, and a pipe. And we can also set colors for these things if we wanted to. So that's the things we can do, and I'm going to reset that because we're not going to use any of that. But what we're going to do is build a tadpole, and we'll start with a black, and I'm going to click over here in the color chart, left click, because when I say click, that means left click. I'm going to click the black area. It showed up down here, and I'm going to click a 20-inch wheel for a front wheel. I'm going to drop me a wheel out here. I'm going to put a little bit from the left edge because I know I've got to put a crank out here kind of in front of this thing. So I'm going to drop a second wheel down here. And now I'm going to go to a 700C for a rear wheel. I'm going to drop it in here. Now let's see, I'll give this about, oh, that's 4 feet. Let's go to 5 feet wheelbase. Now I'm going to drop a seat in here to kind of give me a reference point. I know the seats get pretty close to the frame. And I'm going to drop a crank in here. And I don't know where these go exactly, but I'm just going to kind of stick it out here. Now, the next part of this is putting the tubing in here if you want to. You don't have to do anything else. The tubing's more than likely going to be inside most shells you're going to build, but not necessarily, and you may want to drop some tubing down here. The only thing I allow is round tubing. Even though if you look at it end on, it actually looks square. It's represented as round tubing back in the shell designer. But I'm going to click a piece of tubing there, and I'm going to drop it on the screen. Now I'm holding down my right mouse button and dragging to change the angle of it. If I get farther away from it, I get a little finer resolution on the drag. If I get close to the center of it, it doesn't take very much mouse movement to rotate it a lot. I'm dropping a pipe down here, and you can extend this by rolling your mouse wheel, or you can change the width of it, which is the tubing diameter, by holding down the shift key and doing that. And as per Warren's request, you can now edit the text boxes to change these things. You won't see the size of it change when you get down into small numbers because every pixel is about 1/8 of an inch. So if you don't change by more than 1/8 of an inch, you may not see the bitmap change any. But anyway, there's a 1 inch, and we wouldn't have that small a main frame tubing. I'll make it 1.5. And we'll put it up here, and we'll drop another piece of pipe in here, and I'll just leave the 1.4 standard alone. I'm just going to use my mouse wheel to lengthen this up. And I'll get some red stuff here to save me paint later on. Oops, I accidentally clicked on the seat. You can see up here what I have selected. I'll click that pipe, grab the seat and rotate it back pretty level. And put this pipe on here, and I'll extend it out. I'm just rolling my mouse wheel to extend it. And I've got my pipe on the back. I'm going to drop another pipe. I'm going to go back to black. That's what I like. Let's put this over here. I'm probably going to have to run it through the center of the crank. Stick it out here. And we could even get kind of fancy here and drop a head tube in here. Let's shorten it up, spin it around. Drop a head tube. We might have a pretty long one on one of these things. And put a couple of fork tubes in here. I'll thin those down to 1 inch, well, less than 1 inch. I'm going to grab this guy moving back. And put a little bit of rake on this fork. I'll grab another green piece of pipe. And drop it on here. I'll set it for 1 inch. And I'll set it for 6 inches long. I'll right click and drag it into a rotated position, and I'll place it on the fork. I'm going to shorten it up a little bit. Getting those out of the way because I really don't have a way for you to get a hold of that. But anyway, once I got that, I just accidentally missed, and I'm going to drop these wheels back over here. And I'm going to go over to the top view. I'm going to space my front wheels apart. I'm just clicking over here until I have a wheel selected. So I grab the pipe. There's a wheel, and I'm just going to move it out here. I know that it was, the skewer was about on the 2-foot line. So I'm going to drop my 2 wheels over here with my skewers lined up. And I'm going to go back to my side view. Click a fork tube and go back to my top view. I'll move that sucker over a little bit. I'm going to angle it out a little bit. This one over. And I'm going to go back to, I don't know why I do that, because my forks are actually going to be out here, I guess. But anyway, that's just moving those tubings over to the side view. I'll put some skewers back here, some stays back here for the rear wheel. I'm going to right click to drag that around, bend it up a little bit, and left click and drag. And I'll go to the top view and I'll angle that sucker. Go to the side view. I'll drop another one on there. I'm thinning it up to 1 inch, a little over 1 inch. Rotate it around by right dragging. I'm just going to drop it on here. Left, I'm just rolling the mouse wheel to lengthen it. I'm going to go to the top view, and I'm using the right drag to change the angle. All I'm looking for here is to make it hit this pipe, and then make a line up kind of down here on the end. I'm going to go to side view, and I'm going to lengthen it up just a little bit by rolling the mouse wheel and kind of move it here. And that won't change much from the top view. It should be about the same. And I'm going to export that, and I'm going to go over to the Shell Designer, and I can see I don't come anywhere close. Our guy's just kind of in limbo there, so I'm going to go to the Rider Designer, and I'm not going to do much with the rider, but I am going to move him to where he can reach the pedals, and looks like I've got my crank pretty far away, so I'm going to grab the crank and move it over. So I can't do that from the Rider Designer. I'm going to export that and go back to the Frame Designer and grab the crank and move it up. Export that and go to the Shell Designer. Now it looks like I got my guy in there. Go back to the Frame Designer and move that crank back a little bit. This isn't a very good place for the crank. Obviously we're right there on top of our steering, but I don't know, maybe they do that actually, I don't know. Let me export that and go over to the Shell Designer. And we now have a tadpole, and you can see our tubing, and we can see our rider in here, our one-legged rider. And that's all there is to the frame. Now what you'll want to do here is you'll want to go back to the Frame Designer and File, save your default long wheelbase frame as, and name it whatever you want. In fact, what I'm going to do here is just save all these. I'm going to go save the project as Demo 1. I'm going to save the, I'm going to go to the Rider Designer. I'm going to file, save my Rider Designer as, and all we've really done with the rider here is name it Demo 1, is move him forward a little bit, but if we want to save that, changes in its own file name. And so now we have a Demo 1 project file, and it has all those changed files in it. And also let me save, let me go to the Shell Designer and save the shell as Demo 1. So now all these files are in their own little file. We didn't mess up our defaults. Anytime I click this, I save all three. including the project file, which is actually 4 files. But we obviously don't have a shell that fits, but that's what there is to creating a frame.